Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Country Education Partnership's free online professional development program, the Autumn Series. My name is Gary Allen, and I am pleased to be hosting the session today. The Country Education Partnership acknowledges the traditional owners and custodians of the land, rivers, ocean, people, ancestors, and spirits. I'm coming to you from the land of the Gadibanut people of the Eastern Maar, and I pay my respects to the elders past, present. And we acknowledge all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples, particularly any who may be watching this session today. Today is part one of two parts, the Autumn Series, part two being held on Wednesday the 25th. And the topic for both parts is support for small schools. Mark, I'm sorry I didn't make the AGM. How did it go on Friday?
It was a wonderful day, Gary, and probably one of the highlights. We had a brainstorming session around CEP's 50th year, which is 2027, and to get the view of people younger than me in the room was brilliant and certainly changed some of our thinking. But the plan is to have an event or an initiative or some sort of activity each term next year to celebrate CEP's 50 years in existence. So we're excited about that. We're excited the content we got at the AGM around that, as well as many other sessions. We had a brilliant presentation by Tim Arnold from Free Agency, but he spoke about his journey growing up in a rural area and gave some really key messages, and we had all the youth ambassadors in the room for that. But he gave some really powerful key messages, and one around leaving the gate open or closing the gate, and likened, use that analogy to his journey in life. So it was very much a rural context. He even came attired in with his Akuba hat and a few other things, so he played the part of rural. So it was a fantastic guest speaker we had to open the day. So brilliant day, and we thank all those who attended.
Well, that's fantastic. Look, as usual, the session today will take exactly 1 hour, and we will conclude at 5 p.m. The program is being recorded, and there will be an opportunity for people to watch the session online, as well as all previous sessions. Mark will introduce our guests and facilitate today's discussion. So thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Gary. Today's a very punchy session, full of short sessions, and this came about once we started gathering a few speakers around resources for schools. We just realised that we had so many. So we've squeezed them into 2 days with a very short 10-minute time frame, which all of our presenters would probably prefer more, but they're going to do a wonderful job at sticking to time. So the first presenter I'll introduce in a moment is Trudie Voss, the CEO of St Joseph's Corner. And I was completely fascinated by the discussion I had with Trudie leading up to this, and learned so much even around government funding, around addictions, or the lack of funding for those loved ones of people with addictions. I just learned so much in such a short space of time. So I'm really looking forward to Trudie's talk today. So enough of me, over to you, Trudie.
So thank you for the opportunity to share about our charity, Joseph's Corner, and the supports that we might be able to offer your school and wider communities. Joseph's Corner was started 26 years ago by a founder who saw the impact of addiction on the loved ones of that addicted person. And 26 years on, it remains an unfunded area of much needed support. Soon we realised that mental health and addiction issues go hand in hand, and also that the carer, for want of a better term, often has their own mental health and addiction issues. You might have seen some statistics around this, but they are quite concerning. In 2023, the National Health Survey found that 43% of adults will experience a mental health issue at some time in their life. using or based on Australia's current population, that's 12 million people. And 25% of Australians will struggle with addiction. That's 7 million people. And as I've mentioned, these groups of people will overlap, but we can see that the Australia-wide need for support is very large. The motto and mantra for the organisation is a really simple one. A quote from Australia's only saint, St. Mary MacKillop. And she said, never see a need without doing something about it. And I guess it's a very simple statement, but if we were to apply that in our lives and through our organisations, it could have profound impact. Our values remain wanting to have positive impacts in our communities and leading with, supporting with compassion and care at the forefront. The mental health and addiction support that we offer is for individuals, it's for couples, it's for families, and we can also support teams where it's deemed important. It's not generally government funded, but if someone has NDIS funding support, we may be able to support them. Or if they have a GP mental health plan, we might be able to support them that way as well. If they can't access either of those funding sources, then we'll see them privately at around half the market rate, which is about $60 or $70. But going back to our motto, if we come across or someone approaches us that cannot provide any contribution to the support that we're giving them, then we will certainly see them. So please keep that in mind. COVID brought at least one good thing to the therapeutic community and our clients, and that is telehealth. Prior to COVID, most counselling was delivered face-to-face. But since then, it's become the preferred mode for both clinicians and clients. So we can see anyone in Australia via video and phone. And that is, of course, as you would understand, I understand most of you rural, a great benefit to your communities. To date, we've helped over 4,000 people, and I'll just leave you to read two comments from two of those 4,000. So how does therapy help when there's an addiction or mental health issue? Look, I think we don't have the stigma anymore in our Australian society where we're embarrassed to say we're doing counselling or to recommend counselling to someone, but perhaps we might lack the understanding of how it really helps above perhaps talking just to a good friend, which of course helps as well. But I thought I'd go through some of the ways in which therapy does support people. And it starts with understanding. Given I'm talking to an education cohort, I'm sure that convincing you that knowledge is king is not going to be lost on you. So we would start in the therapy with some understanding about the impacts that are occurring for the client and their loved ones. This knowledge helps reduce blame and stigma and the resulting isolation that often is present for people in these circumstances. The therapist will work on coping skills, helping people build confidence, and the result of all the above, the knowledge, the reduced isolation, the coping skills, is a significant improvement in emotional well-being. At the same time, we're looking to help the client have a safe relationship and to reinforce healthy boundaries and to connect with themselves, reconnect with themselves, with others and with their community. There's a saying in addiction circles, disconnection opens the door to addiction, and that's very true. And with loneliness being one of Australia's top health concerns, looking to reconnect people is of vital importance. Nearly 50% of the people that come to us, nearly 50% of the reasons people come to us are either alcohol use or a mental health concern. The remainder are other substance uses and other relationship and life stresses. Just to reiterate the point about telehealth being the mode of preference, 71% of the people we see via telehealth on the phone or video. And to finish, I want to reiterate that you know someone, or you know someone who knows someone with a mental health or addiction issue. And I'm hopeful that if you didn't have a place to recommend to them prior to now, that you'll be able to know that Joseph's Corner can help them. The first 3 pink lines are places that people you know can contact us to inquire about support. First is our email address. There's an online form on our website, and then obviously they can phone us. If you'd like to confidentially discuss a situation you're aware of or ways in which we can support you or your team, please feel free to reach out to me directly on the mobile or email at the bottom. Thank you again, and thank you, Mark and Gary.
Thank you, Trudie. That's just incredibly valuable information. Small school principals often develop quite close relationships with their families, and the families become quite open in the information they share, and a big part of the role is brokering, is to help them find the right supports. And there's been a couple of occasions in my past I wish I'd had that information or known of a service such as yours, but so I just think it's an incredibly valuable piece of information that we can share with rural schools. Gary, we've got about another minute. Not sure if there's anything else you want to comment on or ask of Trudie. You're on mute, Gary.
No, just to agree with you, Mark. Being a principal of a small school, again, just knowing where to find the support when the professional people to provide it just aren't readily available. And so to have a source to go to is just invaluable. So it's fantastic.
Wonderful.
Wonderful. So we can direct schools to this episode.
Thank you very much.
Right along the way. So you may have people reaching out for many months and years to come. So thank you again for your time today. I know you have to duck off.
Thank you. Thank you.
Excellent. Right, to our next presenter, we have the Director of Regional Services at the Academy with us, someone CEP works closely with and has done the last few years. So we're excited that Tyron Paspa has come on board today, and I'm proudly admit that I'm one of the few people who gets his name right. But very excited to have Tyron here. I think he's got a moon boot on at the moment, so he's delivering through the pain. So much appreciative, and over to you, Tyron.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks for the warm introduction, and thank you, Trudie, for the presentation. I learned a lot through that first session. It's a great honour to be the Director of the Academy's Regional Division, as you mentioned, Mark, and I am the beneficiary of online professional learning at the moment, because getting around this beautiful state of ours is proving difficult with the moon boot and being heavily restricted. So I'm very appreciative of the CEP Autumn Series at the moment. My job today is to provide you with an overview of the Victorian Academy of Teaching and Leadership supports for small schools. We don't exist just to support small schools, but I love this initiative that CEP have had to provide a really connected up couple of webinars on the supports available for small schools. Having been involved in the last couple of years where CEP sponsored a small school forum that was hosted at the Academy's regional centres, I can certainly vouch for the power of the partnership in small schools and the supports available. So it's really great to be able to connect all of those resources in one spot. And thanks for the opportunity to talk about our small part of that. For those of you who haven't engaged previously with the Victorian Academy of Teaching and Leadership, we are a statutory authority. We're not the department, we're also not for profit. We exist under the stewardship of the Minister for Education, but alongside the Department of Education, we also have a legislative objective to support Catholic and independent schools. We do that by providing, as our CEO says, the 3 Ps, the professional learning to teachers and school leaders, pathways for our teachers and school leaders to contribute to the system and school improvement, and also through our profession and raising the status of our profession, promoting our profession. So those are legislative objectives for the Academy, and we work really, really hard to try and meet those. Another legislative objective of ours is to provide equity of access to professional learning. We do that primarily through our regional centres, and it's a network of 7 centres right across our state. Those are pictured on site, and they're scattered in some of the major townships right across this beautiful state of ours. We acknowledge that professional learning is best done when it's on site, in context and amongst peers, so that you can tackle professional problems of practice and have that opportunity to network. Professional learning like this on screen and online is really, really valuable for many, many reasons, but we know that there's a really great impact when you can get together with colleagues on site and work through those problems of practice. Small schools benefit from this opportunity at regional centres because we know that it's a little bit closer to home. We know that some of the travel barriers are reduced. We know that our teachers and school leaders can access that professional learning a little more locally, and that means that the content is going to be more appropriate for you in regional areas. And it also provides a network and a team. Someone who, when you walk into Shepparton, you know that Simone's going to be there, or if you walk into Bairnsdale, you know that Carol's going to be there and greet you and understand your context as a small school in a regional Victorian area. What do we do? So I've mentioned the 3 Ps, professional learning, pathways, and promoting the profession. But in terms of what we offer for small schools, I think there's probably 3 different aspects. So we can offer professional learning and coaching and mentoring for your leadership. It's often that analogy of putting your own oxygen mask on first that people forget. And through things like the CEP and these webinars, there's really great access for small schools now. And we want to make sure that you do focus on your own professional learning as you're leading your school community. So that might be through coaching and mentoring supports, as I mentioned, but it also might be through some of our leadership programs. And we have, in particular for our principals, everything from new and evolving principals to those who've been in the role for quite some time through our Elevate program. And there's obviously a range of professional learning that fits the career pathways for our teachers as well. In terms of your school's teaching and what happens inside the classroom, we've got a myriad programs, and I suppose the flagship one of those is the Teaching Excellence program, which is an intake of 300 teachers each year, and that is a 10-month course for some of Victoria's best and brightest teachers. We've now got a cohort well in excess of 1,000 teachers who have completed that over the last few years, and the impacts are really, really astonishing when they get together and work really deeply into their chosen discipline. There's more practical and quick professional learning that we have on offer around implementation of the Victorian Teaching and Learning Model 2.0 and how that works best with teachers and building capability around some of the teaching strategies in there and the methods of learning. That content is also really, really transferable if you're in a Catholic diocese or an independent school. Everyone's got their own teaching and learning model. We understand that. And the fact that it's got VTLM 2.0 on the front of it doesn't mean that it's only for government schools, and that's really, really applicable across our Catholic and independent schools. We have quite specific professional learning for, that we call our Teacher Practice Series. That is for recent and emerging teachers to really focus their skills and build capability that is aligned to really high impact teaching strategies and what the evidence says is going to work across our classrooms. There's really focused professional learning on maths and literacy through things like the Maths and Literacy Pedagogy and Practice. And also, if one wants to take a very deep dive into a problem of practice, there's the Teaching Excellence Fellowship as well. If you're more interested in whole school improvement, of course, we have a range of programs that target school improvement, like Leading School Improvement, and some of our regional professional learning also focuses on wellbeing and engagement, things like attendance, which I know many small schools don't struggle with, but we all know that behaviour and wellbeing and engagement is a really fundamental part of having students ready to learn. So some of our professional learning focuses on that. I'll leave you with some of our further supports, and I wanted to highlight 3 things on this page as well. I mentioned right up the top the Small School Forum that CEP have been so generous to offer in the last 2 years. We're doing that again, and it's on the 8th of October, which I'm sure some marketing will come out about very shortly after this promotion. And it's going to be across the Academy's regional centres again, with those objectives of providing an opportunity for small school teachers and leaders to get together for a day of networking, to share some of their challenges, to strengthen those professional networks and to shape future supports for small schools like this event here. We have our beautiful regional centres that I showed you some images of at the start of the presentation, and those are available for your booking. So if you are a small school in a regional location and you're looking to do a curriculum day, or you need a day where you want to do some strategic planning or professional learning, please do speak with your local team or visit the Academy's website to connect in and make those venue bookings available to yourself. And finally, every little bit helps, and the Academy is proud to offer a small school CRT subsidy for participation in our programs if you have less than 100 students. That's available via the Academy website. I know that the major challenge is not the funding for CRTs, but actually finding them. But we like to say every little bit helps. And if you can get some additional funds to support your professional learning or support your teachers' professional learning, then why wouldn't you? Unfortunately, we can't provide you with a pool of CRTs that you can readily put into that position, but we can provide the funds if you're able to source one yourself. So I might leave it there. I'm always really happy to talk to you about your small school journey and how we might support that, whether it's through coaching, mentoring, or our professional learning and our pathways.
Thank you, Tyron. Greatly appreciate your time today, and CP, we love the partnership with the Small School Forum. We're excited about our 3rd iteration this year, and the planning has already commenced. So yeah, it's going to be a fantastic session, and how great to have a PD day that's specifically around small schools. So
thanks, Mark.
Thank you for your time today. Our next speaker, also very excited about this. We have Natasha Banks, the Program Director of Day of AI Australia. And I'll just say the one thing here that got me really excited. When you go to the website, one of the first words you see is curiosity. And I'll say we don't necessarily know what jobs will be in the future and what jobs won't be around. By the way, that's a fun activity to do with kids, is to look at professions that won't be around in 20 years' time and have a debate and argue. It's hilarious. I had a child convince me the hairdressers won't be around, that you'll just put a thing on your head and the computer will do it. Anyway, but the thing I think we can be almost certain of is that we're going to need our young people to still be curious going forward. So I think that's almost the one lock in regard to future professions. So that's my little bit of an intro. Over to you, Natasha.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mark. And I'll just open up my slides and say genuinely thank you so much for the opportunity to be with you all today. I'm a country girl from New South Wales, so I really appreciate the work that CEP does, and really, thank you for this opportunity to share our program. Also just want to acknowledge the First Nations people. I'm coming to you from Naarm in Melbourne. An important part of our program that I won't stress so much today is that we do really weave First Nations stories and perspectives through our learning materials to make sure that it's really relevant for all Australian students. So I'm Tash, Program Director for Day of AI Australia. We've been around in Australia since 2022. I'm really happy for you to contact me directly about anything that I share today. I'll also share some resources at the end of the slides, but please feel free to reach out to me directly on my email here. So what is Day of AI Australia? As Mark alluded to, we are a program that really is about curiosity. What we want to provide for students in Australia is the fundamentals of AI literacy. So what it is, how it works, how to be a critical thinker, how to use the tools effectively and responsibly. And we cover kindergarten all the way through to year 12. We are a registered charity. We have a partnership with the University of New South Wales that really helps us to scale our program. The program was originally developed in the United States by MIT, but here in Australia, it is super tailored to Australian classrooms. We align it to the Australian curriculum. It's also aligned to state syllabus or curricula where they are applicable. We include Australian case studies of amazing organisations, scientists doing really cool and interesting work around artificial intelligence. And all of our lessons include safe and age-appropriate activities for students to get hands-on so that they can really experience what AI is like, the opportunities so that they can also understand and connect that learning around the risks and challenges with what they're actually able to generate with generative AI. We do have a fully sequenced unit of work, and I'll step you through the program in terms of what's available for each year level group, but it's super flexible. Your class is going to be different to a colleague's class, so it really is about what works for you and your students. And I want to emphasize that any teacher can deliver this program. It is designed so that you don't have to have a computer science or digitechnologies background. We have a teachers advisory group that help us develop and test all of our materials. We've got PE teachers, we've got art teachers, and it's a really consistent thing that we want to make sure that all of our materials are suitable for all types of teachers. One thing I will just very quickly emphasize is that our program is about AI literacy, which we see as a subset of digital literacy. It is not about teaching students how to be the best prompter or how you can use Claude to do task XYZ. We are really trying to empower young people to have informed critical thinking around these amazing tools that are really shaping their future, and to be ethical participants in how that technology is evolving and changing the lives that they are having. It's really important to emphasize that it's not about, providing prompt libraries. It's about understanding how large language models work, risks and challenges. What does it mean when, the internet is scraping the information? Whose perspectives are missing? All of those sorts of things. These are our four main areas of focus, our objectives for the program. As I've mentioned, developing an understanding of what the AI technology is, how to be a safe and responsible user. Reflecting on ethical considerations is something that runs through all of our lessons, regardless of the age group, and it is a real cornerstone for what we do with our program. And finally, we want students to be able to connect their learning up to the world around them. So we have an amazing student challenge that really asks kids to think about how could we use this technology to tackle some of the problems that we are encountering in the world today. Now, how you access our materials is through our learning management system. All you need to do is register an account where we ask you some questions about who you are, what sort of teacher you are. You don't need to remember a password, and you have access to our LMS, which has a suite of all of our content here ready and available for you. There are also short videos on each of the lessons that walk you through what each lesson includes. So if you're feeling less confident, you can watch those videos. And I'll mention that there are some training sessions as well shortly. The materials for each lesson are lesson plans, presentation slides, and we have an educator implementation guide that tells you all of the things that you need to make sure are set up before you get started. Some schools you might need to contact your IT team to make sure that there's no sites being blocked. All of that sort of information is in our short, sharp educator implementation guide. The lesson plans and presentation slides are really super comprehensive. Every lesson we absolutely walk through all of the activities, any definitions, any questions, any discussion prompts that you might need for a topic or a theme. We have a vocabulary list, And there is also opportunities if your students are having a really great time with the lesson and you're like, I want to stretch them, we include extension questions as options for teachers as you're going through each lesson. Now, just a quick walkthrough of each of the main year groups that we cover. So for kindergarten to year 2, this really is about offline learning. So it's not about getting them to sit with a device and, build a robot. These are all unconnected activities, starting to get an understanding about what artificial intelligence is, where it shows up in their lives, how artificial intelligence how it works in terms of sensing things, and then an opportunity for them to think creatively and collaboratively around what could an AI robot look like. This was developed with early learning specialists, and we've tested this with numerous teachers across the country, both in regional and in metro settings. And the feedback that we get about this is it's really about curiosity. It's about laying the foundations for building those kind of concepts and understandings in higher year levels. Years 3 to 4 is where we introduce a more meaty lesson. So lesson 1 for all of our year levels is the sort of like, if you can only do one, do this one. And we walk through how artificial intelligence systems work. Second lesson, talking about generative AI and how that is different to regular AI systems. In years 5 to 6, we start to build out ethics in AI, and a new lesson this year is about learning in AI. So that question about, if AI can do the job for me, what's the point in me doing, task X or essay Y? This is a new lesson that we tested with some teachers earlier this year, and the feedback has been, this is the one that's been missing. This is the conversation every student and every teacher should be having. How can we talk to students about productive struggle? How can we give them some analogies about why it is important that they still learn and not outsource their learning to something like ChatGPT? And years 5 to 6 is where we introduce the student challenge. Building on the years 5 to 6 program in years 7 to 10, we also build in things around media and truth. So media literacy is part of digital literacy, and extending that student challenge for upper level students. This is the first year that we've included lessons for years 11 and 12, and we've broken this down into the basics because we know that students are going into subjects specific. So they might be doing computer science as part of their senior studies, but these 3 lessons cover the basics of what we think any year 11 and 12 student would be interested in or should kind of leave school with the skills and competencies around. I mentioned that we have the student challenge. This is a really fun end of day activity if you're delivering across one day. It is asking students to think about how AI can tackle UN Sustainable Development Goal. There's lots more information about this on our website, so I won't labour that too much, but there are really great prizes available for both teachers and students in the challenge. Once you've gone through our Foundations of AI Literacy program, we have a wealth of other lessons that are available that you can kind of dip in and out of. You can build across a term or even a year, and we add more lessons all across the year. My final call out is about teacher professional learning. At the moment, we're running how to deliver the program sessions. You can book into those at any point from now on. In term 2, we will be doing an introduction to AI for teachers, which covers things like AI resilient assessments, how to set up whole of school approaches to AI adoption. And we're really open to working with schools to provide sessions on your own school PL days, or if you want to do a whole of educator body session, we're really open. So please get in contact about that. Finally, if your school needs devices to run the program, please also get in touch with us. We've got an amazing device bank, which we prioritise government schools, and particularly regional schools would absolutely be part of that. I'm just conscious of the time, so I'll make sure that we hand back to Mark and Gary, but thank you all. Please get in contact. I really encourage you to sign up. We've got lots of activities happening across the year, and I would really love to have more regional schools as part of our program this year. Thank you.
Thank you, Natasha. Amazing. You did well. Only 8 seconds over, so brilliant.
Sorry.
Such valuable resources, and we will definitely maintain our contact and relationship, because I can see our rural and regional schools really wanting to link in with you. Gary, I'm not sure if you want to add a comment there?
Oh, look, just what's impressed me with all the presentations is that it's providing online opportunities and awareness of programs. And given the state of the cost of travel, that this really is a wonderful advantage, having this information for rural schools. I think it's really is marvellous.
Thank you, Gary. Yeah, certainly CP is looking at CP e-bikes, I think, as an alternative if fuel keeps going up. CP are very privileged and fortunate to have a strong relationship with the Department of Education in Victoria, who provide tremendous support for that. And a key team in that is the Rural and Regional Unit of the Department of Education. Makes sense, of course, that would be the section that CP collaborate and work with most. So we are very lucky to have Dan O'Brien here today to tell us about that branch. So over to you, Dan. You might be on mute there, Dan.
Can you hear me now, Mark?
We can.
Excellent. Thank you very much for having me. And can you see what I'm sharing on screen, Mark?
Yes, we can. Could be the show version would be better, but
The show version, yeah.
But we can see it.
There we go.
There we go. Perfect.
Yeah, thanks very much for having me. I really appreciate it. I'm Dan O'Brien. So I'm the director of a branch in the department called the Partnerships and Priority Cohorts branch. And as Mark said, we work closely with CP, and we have part of the branch is the Rural and Regional Unit. And a big part of the reason I wanted to come today was sort of that awareness building as well, to share some of the programs that we're responsible for in the Partnerships Priority Cohorts branch. Some of them will be programs that you're well aware of, or funding lines that your schools will be accessing, but it might be helpful to have a point of contact if you have feedback or things that you want to test or look to change in some of those programs. And others might be programs that you're less aware of, because I also wanted to touch on some of the programs and supports that we offer in the priority cohort space. So supporting refugee students and students who have English as an additional language. So to give a sense of the branch, we do have the Rural and Regional Unit. We also have targeted school services team, so programs to support students and families experiencing financial disadvantage and challenges, and particular growth in demand for some of those programs like State Schools Relief in recent years, reflecting cost of living pressures. And we also have the swimming and water safety funding in that team as well, which, conscious of current increased travel costs for rural and regional schools and accessing swimming programs. And then we do have a real focus within the branch on supporting students from culturally and linguistically diverse backgrounds. And we have both the multicultural and refugee supports team, so running a number of refugee support related programs, a couple of which I'm going to touch on. But the team's also over the last year worked on the new anti-racism policy that schools will be aware of, and in recent weeks been doing some regional forums and roadshows to help promote that policy and support schools in implementing it. And we have the EAL unit. And so I'm going to touch on, some of both the growth in demand for EAL supports in schools, but also how we're sort of seeing that sort of spread from metropolitan areas into regional and rural areas more. So maybe touch on some of the supports in that space. But yeah, to touch on some of the key areas of work that the Rural and Regional Unit do. And again, these will be programs that many of you will be familiar with, but I do want to provide an opportunity for people to be able to reach out to us a bit more. So a big part of the work that we do is in funding the increased availability of subjects virtually, really with an emphasis on rural and regional schools, and trying to make some of the scope and scale challenges for smaller schools be less of a barrier to subject access for students. And so in recent years, through funding, we provide Virtual Schools Victoria, VVLN, and the Victorian School of Languages. Almost all VCE subjects are now available virtually. But I guess we're also really conscious that the enrolments in virtual subjects have been growing really, really strongly and rapidly, particularly VSV. Enrolment's grown very quickly in recent years, and particularly post-COVID. And the reasons that students are choosing to study virtually are also changing. So alongside that work is also increased focus on what are the supports and engagement strategies that students need to do that virtual study effectively, and make sure that we're supporting student welfare. So where you have challenges or feedback or questions about virtual learning, we'd really love to hear from schools more. And I'm going to share contact details at the end of this presentation, maybe particularly from that student welfare and support side of things. And one thing I wanted to highlight that we're exploring at the moment is trying to explore more blended models of virtual learning. And we're running a pilot. We've been running a pilot over the last couple of years in Morwell with a blended model. So with a number of hard to staff subjects for inner Gippsland being offered mostly through virtual delivery. So students are studying subjects online through a lot of the week, but then having the opportunity to come together periodically to a central hub in Morwell with students and peers from other schools, and being able to access that time with peers, but also time with a specialist teacher that they might not otherwise be able to access at their home school. So that blended model, trying to get some of the economies of scale of virtual, but also some of that face-to-face time for students with an expert teacher. Another key funding line in the rural and regional unit is the funding that comes out through the SRP for the VCE revision lectures. And it'd be one that people are, well, secondary schools are well aware of. But I guess just wanting to highlight that in speaking to schools, we've really noticed post-COVID a real broadening of the way schools are using that VCE revision lecture funding. I think originally the intent of it was really around supporting students in rural areas to come into Melbourne to access revision lectures. Over time, we're seeing with the prevalence of online materials and more activity in regional centres, we're seeing the way schools use that really shift, and schools increasingly use it on a range of study supports for kids in rural areas that include locally organised events, and bringing sometimes the subject matter experts that might be based in metro areas to local areas to support students with their VCE studies. So we've tried to update the guidance on the funding in the last couple of years. We're really supportive of broad uses as long as they're in line with that, that study support. So if there are any questions on the uses of that funding, we really encourage people to reach out. Also just wanted to highlight something that might be lesser known is a program that we fund, which is the Raising Rural and Regional Aspirations Grants. So we provide funding to expert partner orgs with the goal of trying to improve pathways for kids in rural and regional areas to tertiary and career opportunities. So a couple that I wanted to highlight that are running through those grants in 2026. So Good Shepherd, their Future Starts program, they connect primary school age students to mentors through tertiary education and industry partners, and try and showcase career pathways for students that they may be less aware of. La Trobe University's Regional Pathway Program looks to boost educational engagement particularly for Year 12 students, providing capacity building sessions, tutoring and immersion sessions in universities. Central Queensland University's Raising Aspirations and Career Education for Careers in Agriculture program. So it focuses on contemporary agriculture industry and STEM in agriculture, and tries to build knowledge about the opportunities for students to move into those agricultural pathways. And lastly, the Australian Centre for Contemporary Arts REACH program. So this one's focused on trying to connect primary and secondary students into career opportunities in the visual art space, and providing connections to really high quality contemporary artists and really quality and engaging exhibitions. And lastly, wanted to touch on work that we've been proudly doing with CEP over the last 18 months or more. CEP have been big advocates for the need for increased support and status for groups of smaller schools that seek to cluster together to overcome some of those challenges of size and scale. And we've been putting together some case studies and improved guidance to try and help schools to be able to leverage good work that other clusters in different parts of the state might have already done, and to not have to reinvent the wheel when they start to navigate how they might share resources, share staffing, and be able to cluster together to get better results. So we hope to have improved guidance come out to all schools this year. So something that we'd be pleased to share with this group as it comes out. And beyond the rural and regional unit in the team, I did just want to touch on a couple of the other support offerings that we have for schools, because I am conscious that we're seeing increased numbers of refugee and EAL students in a number of regional and rural communities. So sometimes this might be for schools that are less used to supporting these groups of students than some of our schools in metro areas. So in the refugee support space, we fund a number of programs that really are about building school capacity and capability. And we do that with expert partner organisations, particularly the Centre for Multicultural Youth and for Foundation House and Foundation House. And a couple of the key ones I wanted to highlight are the school support program. So this is a program that's available for schools to reach out to at any time where you might have maybe emergent numbers of refugee students and are looking for support on how best to support students' education and wellbeing transition into Australian schooling. So that's a program that can be contacted on an as-needs basis. It's delivered by Foundation House. And they can support schools with setting up some professional learning, consultation sessions for staff that are supporting refugee students, and a range of resources. And then for schools that might be looking to go a bit further, there's also the Refugee Education Support Program, which is a more intensive, either 1 year or 2 year program where schools work together in clusters to undertake detailed planning for how to support refugee cohorts, access professional learning, and really have experts come out on site and work with schools to tailor strategies for their student cohort needs. So that typically those clusters have tended to be in metro areas where we have larger numbers. But with the growing numbers, CMY and Foundation House are currently looking at whether we have a critical mass to be setting up a cluster in rural and regional areas. So again, when I put contact details up, we'd really welcome schools reaching out if you'd be interested in being part of those refugee support programs. And lastly, did want to call out EAL. We are seeing real spread and real strong growth year on year in our numbers of EAL learners across the state. Obviously, the biggest growth is in our metro growth areas, but we are seeing a spike in some rural and regional areas, and we are seeing increased numbers of rural and regional schools reaching out and saying that we don't have the workforce, we don't have qualified teachers to best support these students. So one thing I just wanted to call out was free online professional learning modules that the EAL team is offering statewide this year. So they're scattered throughout the year. They have been promoted through the department's regional team, so there might be ones that you've heard of. But just, I guess, to give a bit of a plug to the modules, they are staggered throughout the year. They are scaled to differing levels of EAL expertise. So for teachers that might be coming at this from different starting points. And they do support effective EAL practice, the current and the new EAL curriculum, which is coming in from next year, and also how to assess students well against the EAL curriculum. So do encourage people to shout out to look out for those modules, and I'll put a link up. They're ones that are recorded, so they're easy to access at any time for teachers if you've got teachers that would benefit. And I'm conscious I'm running to time, and going from home, I do apologise for the dog barking in the background as well. But just to share our details. So if any of those programs are ones that you use but would like to provide feedback or test ways of working with them, or if you've seen programs that you'd be interested in hearing about more, got details here for the rural and regional team, and also my details, as well as the EAL unit's details if you're interested in getting involved in either the refugee supports or the EAL professional learning. Thanks, Mark.
Thank you, Dan. Incredibly valuable information, and great to have that last slide for when we do get questions. We know who to direct them to. So, and we love the department acronyms. If you have a cow coming to your school, it's not the Sunrise Cash Cow. It's something very different, but they do play an incredibly valuable role. Thanks again for your giving up your time today. Really appreciate that. So,
no, thanks, Mark, and sorry again about the dog.
No, couldn't hear it. So, and our last speaker today from Business Managers Victoria, we have Tracey Smith. Tracey, I'm sure you'll probably cover it, but just particularly interested also in why rural school PRINs should encourage their business managers not only to be part of BMV, but to attend your conference. So I'm sure you'll be covering that, but just in case you're not, I've added it in there. Over to you, Tracey.
Thank you very much, Mark, and it's a pleasure to be here. As Mark said, my name's Tracey Smith. I'm President at the moment of Business Managers Victoria. Last year we celebrated our 50 years of excellence. So at the AGM last week, I was very happy to contribute some suggestions for Mark for your celebrations for CEP next year. It's very exciting times. I'd really like to just briefly talk about what the benefits of joining BMV for particularly rural and regional areas when they're sometimes the only person in the office. Networking is extremely important for all of those and for the supports that come. Business Managers Victoria is not only for business managers, it is also for those in the ES staff completing the roles in admin, finance or personnel. So we cover all of those roles. It's our association's duty to provide professional learning where department probably don't provide that in leadership development. So we focus on that. And we also support the department to deliver the areas of technical skills that's required now in schools to be a business manager for multi-million-dollar businesses that we are actually looking after. So currently I've got a volunteer committee of 21. And they range from a broad range of school settings. I've got primary, secondary, special needs, prep to 12, small regional, small rural, large secondaries all over. So it's a great mix to have information and suggestions when we're planning all of our professional learning for our members. We have got an exciting year ahead. Last week we had our statewide general meeting and we had 320 business managers and members attend that session. It was really well delivered by all the department people, and our guest speaker for the afternoon was Dan Gregory. We are looking forward, and we do with the help of what's happened from COVID, we do masterclass program sessions and we do mentor sessions online. We also find that an hour is delivered. We try and deliver professional learning to our members that they can't get anywhere else from the department during online training, and we probably go into more detail for that reason. We've got our exciting Leadership Day coming up with Dr. Neil Carrington, who's a leadership guru, and he will be delivering a full day program for us on the 4th of May. We've currently nearly got 200 registrations for that. We also, as part of our responsibility, feel that we need to travel to our regions. So every year we go to a different location. We support the day. We have our committee meeting on the Sunday. We deliver a curriculum day for them regarding professional learning for the business managers in that area, and obviously to talk about Business Managers Victoria and the benefits of joining. Our exciting news for this year is that we are going to be the first ever conference that will be held at the newly being built Geelong Convention and Exhibition Centre called Niall Banyul. Our conference theme, you can't stop the wave, but you can learn to surf it. And I'm not allowed to use the 3 letters of one of the typical examples, but I am going to, SSB. All schools couldn't stop that and being implemented, but we had to learn to surf it and how to implement and use it for the department. So we've taken our theme, and also obviously because we're going to be down at Geelong. Our gala dinner, because of our numbers, last year we were at the convention centre. We had 620 at our gala dinner last year at Crown. So we've booked out GMHBA Stadium for our gala dinner on the Thursday night. So we're really looking forward to that. I'm just going to leave these slides because I wanted to show the program that we are delivering for our Leadership Day. It's pretty exciting having Dr. Carrington, who's going to be attending and delivering that. And also, again, I just wanted to show the highlights of our conference, but our program, we're looking forward to Julie Goodwin being one of our first guest speakers, keynote speakers. We've also managed to engage Jackie Fury. We tried to have her during COVID, and unfortunately, we haven't been able to book her since. Everything's clashed, so we're really looking forward to having Jackie back. We've also got plans. I'm looking forward to doing an orientation program that I've been working with the Department of Education to put in place for new business managers. It's an important area at the moment that we're finding business managers starting in schools who don't know what they don't know. And often when you've got a new principal as well, it's being a recipe for disaster at the moment, the department are finding. So we've been working with the department on the pilot program that they've been doing for the principals. And we will be looking to have the first pilot for business managers in term 3 this year. So it's a really exciting time that we're actually going to have something. I've been with the department 40 years and we've never had one for business managers. So it's going to be a really exciting step for us to take. The other area that we absolutely do need to get the department to concentrate on is an aspiring business manager program, because as I said before, currently we have business managers who don't know what they don't know, and we really are seeing some terrible situations and overwhelming cases where they can't cope. So that's something that we are going to be focusing on, and with support of Mark, CEP and the other principal associations, that's what we're looking forward to developing. Sorry, I'd forgotten about all of these. The other thing that I really wanted to tell you all is about the ES Relief Program. Business Managers Victoria currently manage that on behalf of the department. We have the training program that's in place. It's available for people who will be on that to be able to make a commitment for 6 to 12 months to do relief work. We do it in conjunction with the department training centres. It takes 2 terms. It is a lot of work. I'll leave people to read more about that, but I just wanted to talk about, we do an induction to cases 21 to finance to EduPay. They do learn how to do receipts, payments, student administration skills, tax and other areas. And something else we introduced, because we found a lot of the people were going into small primary schools where they were the only person. So we introduced a student first aid training program for the people to do as well, to be able to support schools. Last year, we started with 77 expressions of interest. We ended up with 44 commencing the first interview stage, 32 started, and unfortunately, because they do a volunteer placement in schools as part of their assessment, we lost several of them as part of the program, and we ended up with 27 graduating. We currently have 86 names, though, that are available to all Victorian government schools. You don't just have to be a BMV member to receive that. So that list is available and kept live for as much as we can. And it's certainly a support that we know is useful to all rural and regional schools. We do ask when we advertise that for people to nominate suggestions for people who may be interested in the program, because we're trying to get people back in the areas of Ballarat, Bendigo and some of those smaller areas, Geelong, around there, network areas around there, so that we've got people that cover the whole state. Our funding for Business Managers Victoria is only through our business partners. The Department of Education actually don't fund Business Managers Victoria at all. So we work very hard to get funding from our business partners to be able to deliver all of our programs to our members at a reduced cost. Some of them also cover small school scholarships, which people may be interested in this area, Mark. We have 16 opportunities. We pay up to $1,000 for conference registration and accommodation. And it's based on whether or not there has been natural disaster or other impacts or small schools. We also have VMIA who sponsor a $5,000 professional learning award and also $5,000 for networks to be able to deliver things for networks. Our business partners are also very generous and sponsor our high tea event with our life members. The important part, a membership fee for schools is $220 including GST. For an individual, because unfortunately we do find several schools don't appreciate the value of this program, and we find there's approximately 100 of our members pay for an individual membership out of our 1,152 members because we don't have the support from schools to pay for the school membership. So I really would encourage, if people would consider finding that $200 for a school membership, it is certainly worthwhile and valuable. We provide a newsletter on a regular basis, and obviously I provide communication to the department, from the department to our members whenever it's necessary, and several areas can't get information out through the school update, so we send that out on their behalf as well. So I'm currently on 36 stakeholder department reference working parties as part of my secondment in this role, and I think it's well and truly worth the information that we then send out on behalf of those 36 stakeholder groups. If you could please provide that link to your business, HR, finance or admin, and obviously in a lot of these small schools we're talking to, I know it will probably be the only person in the office, but we certainly do. It's important for collegiality, for personal learning growth, and I think more importantly for their sanity. So I really appreciate your time, and thank you very much, Mark, for being given the opportunity.
Thank you, Tracey. Dead on 10 minutes, perfectly fine. What incredible value for the service do you provide? And of course, we know many of our small schools share business managers across schools, so extremely valuable information. I think every session today I've learned something new just when I thought I knew what certain groups delivered. So thank you for your time. And as I pass back to Gary, if CP was ever holding a high tea event, Gary, you would be number one to get older to chair that event, I'm sure. Over to you, Gary.
Thank you, Mark. It was orange juice I was drinking too, by the way. Look, thank you. What a wonderful, high-packed session. It was really, really very, very good. And I'm sure along with session 2 on Wednesday, the 25th, that really is a wonderful resource for our small schools. It's dangerous to pick out one thing, but I do want to highlight the fact that when Dan mentioned aspirations, it really is something that's under addressed, so important and so hard to address. And it was the motivation behind CEP introducing the Rural Ambassadors Program, which has been successful, but that's really is significant. Look, thank you to everyone who has contributed. As I said, a fantastic session. And on Wednesday, there'll be the part 2, and both parts will be sent out and be available to schools online. So thank you all very much.